That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Can we please put an end to this and move on? I mean, what is going on with Deandre Swift right now? Why are we seeing this ADP freefall? Now, I understand every offseason, you have a few players that drastically move with their ADP. News from camp, really team situations, just blurbs from the coach. And a lot of the times it is unwarranted. A lot of the times it makes no sense. Now, of course, you can't look at all of these ADP movers and you can't overlook everything because there's always going to be major news that breaks one way or another. Maybe it's something that the coach says about personnel. Maybe it's something that happens with the actual team actions and that they bring in a guy, maybe they cut someone, maybe you see a trade happen or an injury occur, and then you see a drastic change to ADP. But every once in a while, what happens is fantasy football, quote unquote, analysts, experts, they don't like coming up with their own opinions because it's very easy to go through and listen to 20 different podcasts. And once you hear all your buddies saying this player's overvalued, you go, hey, on my podcast, I'm going to be doing the same thing. Let's all hop on this bandwagon because these people are making good points. And if I am wrong here, hey, they were wrong as well. So it didn't really matter. Nobody's going to be coming out for me. This is why you very rarely ever see anybody going out on a limb for a player that nobody else likes or maybe that everybody likes and they say that they're overvalued. But how you win fantasy leagues is you zig while other people are zagging. So let's dive in to Deandre Swift. Let's talk about this free fall. And let's really try to evaluate if we think that this is a correct decision in drastically moving him down draft boards. But before we do that, I have a couple announcements. The first thing is we passed 300 people joining the flock over there on Patreon. Now, that is absolutely massive. And we decided because of this, now, y'all know I say that we spend so long every single day just breaking down dynasty teams, breaking down redraft teams over there on Patreon. And I used to do it just as an in-depth write-up where I would just send you pages on pages of what I thought about your team, your league settings, and how I thought you should optimize your starting lineup because of so, as well as your bench spots. Well, now we're not doing that. Now I am going through and I'm making a personalized podcast about your own league, your own team, and the moves I think you should be making. So we've been doing that every single day, and I've been uploading them on Patreon for everybody else to listen to. So because of that, I have an exciting announcement that if for whatever reason you can't get enough videos, for whatever reason you can't just continue to go through our old catalog and keep watching, well, we have new stuff posted every single day on Patreon. We've had 10 podcasts in the past 3 days posted. So, of course, if you want to join the flock, that is always an option. I can get your team broken down. I can get you our rookie draft guide. I can really do everything you want over there, as well as you're going to be supporting the show in return. And now, outside of that, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Let's get this video over 300 likes for our boy Deandre Swift, and let's dive into it. Okay, so here with Deandre Swift, I mean, he has fallen from the middle of the second round in redraft leagues to where now he's being drafted in the late third. And I understand that a lot of people are going to be down in the comments, but they're not going to wait until the end of the video and try to tell me this is because of Todd Gurley. Well, please stick to the end of the video. We're going to be talking about Todd Gurley, but let's focus in on Deandre Swift right away. And with Deandre Swift, I think the reason that you're seeing him fall is a lot of people don't understand what makes Deandre Swift so valuable in fantasy. And I know I've said this about 100 times before, so we're going to keep it brief. But with Deandre Swift, if you go through his profile, I understand he's not a massive running back. He's not a Derrick Henry. He's only 5'8", 212 pounds. But what's important here is the BMI. I mean, if you look at his actual build, this is someone that could handle work on all 3 downs if he needed to. Now, I don't want Deandre Swift doing that. I don't think he needs to do that for his own fantasy value because this is someone, and we say this all the time, he's going to be getting every valuable touch out of that backfield. He's going to be getting the targets. He's going to be getting the usage at the goal line. I understand Jamal Williams is going to have a role on this team. Of course he's going to. But I think if you dive into the numbers, you can understand why Deandre Swift can still be a highly productive running back with Jamal Williams there. Now, go through the rest of the profile. He is still only 22 years old. Obviously, you love to see the age with your running backs, regardless of if it's redraft or dynasty. And then he was drafted in the beginning of the second round of last year's NFL draft. He ran a 4.48 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. So a very impressive profile from Deandre Swift. He has the size. He has the team investment. We know, based on what he did in Georgia and his rookie season, that he's an elite receiving running back and he has the speed. Deandre Swift checks every single box you look for. I mean, this is what we talk about when we're breaking down these rookies over there in our rookie draft guides. We go through, we try to identify what actually matters for these players coming into the NFL. Deandre Swift had all of that. Now, if you go to 2020, this is what's so frustrating, because in 2020, Deandre Swift was a running back 1. Now, I know on the season, he was running back 17 in points per game, but everything you have to do when you're looking at these rookie running backs is trying to make the split, trying to look at how their usage changed throughout the course of the season, because we understand at the end of the year, these players are going to be used in a role that they're most likely going to be in their sophomore seasons compared to what they were at the very beginning of their rookie year. So yeah, he was RB 17 points per game last year, but after his bye week, he was the running back 10. So he had already transitioned at 21 years old into being a top 10 running back last year. Now, yes, I understand he was just on the border. And if you go through and you look at how he did this, this is what I want to focus in on. I want to focus in on how Deandre Swift does not need to see every touch in his backfield to be highly effective. He is the Aaron Jones. He is the Alvin Kamara. Travis Etienne is about to be the same running back, which is why I'm all in on Travis Etienne. They are the running backs that get targeted out of the backfield and get touches at the goal line. Because I don't know how many times I have to say this. We say it over and over and over and over and over again. But the carries between the 20s are almost meaningless in fantasy. If you're going to be losing 10 carries between the 20s, but that's going to allow your efficiency at the goal line and in the receiving game to take a step up, that's great. I mean, who cares about those carries between the 20s unless you're Derrick Henry and you have an incredible breakaway run rate where we know that you can pop off through the course of the NFL season 3 to 4 80-yard rushing touchdowns. At that point, those carries don't matter, because if you get those 10 carries and you average 3.8 yards per carry or 4.2, it doesn't matter. You're going to be averaging about an extra 3.5 to 4 fantasy points based on those touches. But you can make that up in one reception. You can make that up in one goal line touch. Now in 2020, Deandre Swift was the running back 10 after his bye week with 8.5 carries a game, 3.5 receptions a game. That's what you want to focus in on. 67 total yards, because we know naturally when you're getting the ball in space, when you are catching it out of the backfield, you are going to be more efficient than you are with those carries between the tackles. So 67 total yards a game. And he had 10 total touchdowns in only 13 games, showing us that the Detroit Lions plan on using him at the goal line. Now, also, what happened with Detroit this offseason? They added the best offensive lineman in the entire NFL draft. Now, I understand they get the significant downgrade at quarterback, and I know a lot of people are saying, but this is going to be a rebuilding team, so it's going to mean that they're passing a lot, more targets for Deandre Swift, yada, yada, yada. No, I mean, I am here trying to make a bullish case for Deandre Swift, and I can't even pretend like losing Matthew Stafford's good for him. No, it's going to hurt the entire offense. It's going to end drives early. They're going to have less trips to the red zone. Bringing in Jared Goff, losing Matthew Stafford is definitely going to be bad for Deandre Swift, whichever way you cut it. But what I want to look at is the transition in the backfield for this running back room. So you're losing 2 running backs out of this backfield this season. You're losing Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson. Now, I understand neither running back were extremely talented. I know that neither one of these guys you were playing in fantasy. Now, if you look at Adrian Peterson, he was averaging 9 carries a game. He was averaging over a reception a game, 44 total yards, and he had 7 total touchdowns through the course of the season. Now, Kerryon Johnson, on the other hand, was averaging about 3.5 carries a game, a little over 1 reception, 23 total yards a game, and he had 3 total touchdowns last year. So you combine this and you look at 12.5 carries leaving the backfield, 3.3 receptions leaving the backfield, 67 total yards a game, and 10 total touchdowns over the course of the season. So this is why I am not worried about Deandre Swift. Because yes, 100% Jamal Williams is going to get touches. Look at the contract they gave him. They brought him in so they can feed him. But at the same time, AP is gone. At the same time, Kerryon Johnson is now in Philadelphia. So while you're seeing Jamal Williams come in and he is going to get touches, are you really thinking that he's going to be getting more than 12.5 carries a game, more than 3.5 receptions? No, he's not even going to see that workload. You think he's going to come away with 10 touchdowns? You think he's going to come away with 70 total yards a game? No, he's not going to be picking up 100% of what the other running backs left. I mean, he's going to get a decent amount of that. Maybe he gets 8 to 9 carries a game. Maybe he gets a reception and a half. And all of a sudden, all he did was pick up Adrian Peterson's production. There's still some production left over from Kerryon Johnson leaving. And you have Deandre Swift now going into year 2. So the only thing I am worried about for Deandre Swift's fantasy value is the overall offense. Now, that is a major worry in transitioning over from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff, because with Jared Goff, like I said, drives are going to end early. You're not going to get as many red zone opportunities, but still, don't worry about Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is going to be having the role that Adrian Peterson had last year. I mean, essentially, he's an upgrade over AP, but the best thing here is it's so easy to see how Jamal Williams is going to function here. We already saw him with the Deandre Swift clone in Aaron Jones. Did he really have that big of an impact on Aaron Jones? I understand that a lot of people are going to be looking at Aaron Jones as a running back that's been a top 3 guy in fantasy over the past few years. And they're going to say, Mason, Deandre Swift can't be that because you're looking at Deandre Swift and he's playing in a much worse offense. And yeah, that's a completely fair point. No, Deandre Swift not going to be a top 3 running back, but you're going to be passing him up at the beginning of the 3rd round because you're worried about Jamal Williams? No, at the beginning of the 3rd round, at that point, you're not looking for a top 3 running back. You're looking for a guy to be a low-end running back 1. And if he is a low-end running back 1 there, and you have him as the running back 2 on your roster, or potentially, I know it sounds crazy, but the running back 3, if you go robust RB, at that point, I mean, that's a league winner player. That's someone that's going to be coming in, and he's going to be providing you low-end running back 1 value. Now, we go over to Todd Gurley, who I know Todd Gurley visits Detroit. My initial reaction on this is I wasn't even told about it till we were live streaming. I went, oh, Todd Gurley was signed? Well, that's probably going to hurt DeAndre Swift's goal line opportunity, if anything. But beyond that, I don't see many touches going to Todd Gurley. Well, since then, Todd Gurley has not showed up in Detroit. It looks like he's most likely not going there because I have no idea how this is not being reported on. I have no idea how people aren't talking about this, but they go through and they sign Michael Warren instead, an undrafted free agent. So why are they going ahead and signing more undrafted free agent running backs if they think they're going to be inking a deal with Todd Gurley? That simply doesn't make sense. I mean, if you think you're about to bring in Todd Gurley, you're not signing Michael Warren. So I am a lot less worried about Todd Gurley, even if you go through and you look at what Todd Gurley has done in recent past. I mean, in 2020, Todd Gurley was maybe the worst running back in the NFL. Obviously, you could look at some practice squad guys. Obviously, you could look at some 3rd stringers and say, Mason, Todd Gurley was better than them. And of course, but I'm talking starting running back, guys seeing more than 10 touches a game. How many players were worse than Todd Gurley? Because I know that these are very elementary numbers to look at. I understand that there are way better ways to go about this, but a very easy thing for everybody else to understand is if we go through and look at his 2020 numbers, Todd Gurley, 13 carries a game, 1.6 receptions a game. More importantly, the efficiency. And I know these efficiency marks aren't necessarily the most useful, but they're at least somewhere to start. So 3.5 carries a game for Todd Gurley, 4.6 yards per target a game. Now you go on the other hand with Brian Hill, someone who I don't think really anybody is excited about. Brian Hill, the 2nd running back in Atlanta, the same exact situation. Compared to Todd Gurley's 3.5 yards per carry, Brian Hill, 4.7. Compared to Todd Gurley's 4.6 yards per target, Brian Hill, 6.6. I mean, a night and day difference here. Brian Hill was a significantly better running back than Todd Gurley in Atlanta last year. Now I understand Todd Gurley was getting the usage, but that's what happens when you have that contract. That's what happens when you have that team investment, which is why on the Dynasty channel, we talk about team investment all the time because it leads to opportunity. But here, Todd Gurley is washed. Todd Gurley, worst case scenario, if Detroit does bring him in, is getting goal line usage. And yes, that takes away from DeAndre Swift. And at that point, you can be moving DeAndre Swift down your board. But right now, there aren't that many signs to seeing Todd Gurley actually sign with Detroit. So this dip that you're getting in price, I am buying the dip because he's already being priced to the point that Todd Gurley has signed. Todd Gurley, I mean, he's only getting worse. He has arthritis in his knees. He was one of the worst running backs in the NFL, and he's not on the Detroit Lions. How is this moving Deandre Swift's value this much? Now, if you go through the rest of the roster, I mean, simply Jared Goff is going to be nonstop peppering Deandre Swift this season. So you go to the average depth of target that you had from Jared Goff and the rest of the league last year, and you see that Jared Goff was right at the bottom. Now, no, he was not the worst quarterback in his air yards per target. Drew Brees was officially last, where he was 5.94. And hey, Drew Brees, what offense is he playing in? What running back does he have? Oh, Alvin Kamara. Drew Brees has that extremely low average depth of target, and all of a sudden, Alvin Kamara is, if not the most heavily targeted running back in the NFL, right up there. Now, Jared Goff was third to last season at 6.53. So what that tells us is hey, Jared Goff's not someone that is looking to aggressively throw the ball down the field. He's looking to be a check down king. And really, he has not many options on this offense right now. He has TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 4th round pick coming out of USC, Brashad Perriman, someone who, I mean, goes to Detroit just because they have to sign someone. So I'm looking at this as a scenario where Deandre Swift has the potential to lead the entire NFL at the running back position in targets. He is currently seeing a massive drop in price. If you are playing in a redraft league right now and you can get Deandre Swift in the late 3rd, that is absurd. Do that every single time. There is no way that his price is there by the time we get to the season. Take the discount if it's best ball. Take the discount if it's a regular season long, and run. I don't see a big discount happening right now in Dynasty, at least from what I've seen in my own leagues. But maybe even in a Dynasty format, you could go through and send some low ball offers. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for everybody supporting the show. In John, Raymond, Jordan, Andrew, Walter, Dwayne, Evan, Eamon, Q, and Use the Nerd. Thank you guys.